How you doing, George?
Well, very well, thank you, and thank you for inviting me.
Quite all right. Glad to have you. Now, for the record, tell me your real name.
All right. Real name is George Franklin White.
Okay, George. And where do you live presently?
Presently here in Portsmouth, 3606 Sheridan Road, Portsmouth, Ohio.
I need to get my prompting sheet. I forgot that.
Oh, okay.
This tells me what to ask.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. God, you got to have that.
Give me your date of birth.
April 26, 1941.
Now, currently you live in Portsmouth on Sheridan, you said.
Yes, that's correct.
Before then, where were you? How long have you lived on Sheridan?
Well, our first year in Portsmouth, 1974, we lived on North Hill Road in an apartment. And then the house that we're now living in became available a year or two after that. And so we moved to our present location on Sheridan Road.
Are you from Portsmouth?
No, I grew up in Boone County, West Virginia, a little town called Peytona. And the only thing famous about Peytona was a beach there. And a river.
Oh, the beach.
Big cold river, and then we had a beach, you know, a little bit of sand on it.
Yeah. What was the name of that river?
Big Coal River.
Big Coal.
Yeah, Big Coal.
Okay.
And then sixth grade, our house burned down, so our only house available was up on Drawdy Creek, about 4 miles from there. And we went from burning gas to burning coal and wood. So you were always, when you stood in front of the grate, you know, you were warm in the front but cold in the back.
Was it country living?
Oh yeah, it was country. Oh, yeah.
Did you have animals?
We didn't. My father worked on the railroad, and we had a couple dogs. But and early on in our life, we had a cow which we milked, or he milked, and I kind of tried to lasso the heifer.
Okay.
I was small then. So.
Well, as far as that goes, what were your parents' names?
My father's name was Earl Dennis.
Earl what?
Earl Dennis, D-E-N-N-I-S.
Okay.
And my
Earl Dennis White.
White. And my mother was Rotha May Edelman.
Rotha May Eagleman.
Edelman. This is with a D.
Edelman.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
and that was her maiden name.
Yeah, that's her maiden name. Yeah.
Let's see how far back we could go.
Okay.
What were your father's parents' names?
My grandfather's name was James, and I never knew my father's mother. She died when he was young, and he had to take care of 4 younger brothers. When my grandfather remarried, that lady's name was May.
May, okay.
Yeah.
Now those were your grandparents on your father's side.
On my father's side, yeah.
Can you go back any further?
Yes, on my father's side, we go back to the Civil War.
Okay.
With his father coming out of Virginia, where he was a member of the Richmond Cavalry, into West Virginia, what's now West Virginia, and around the Culloden-Milton area, close to Huntington, West Virginia. And he subsequently, after the war was over, came back. Evidently, he had met his future wife.
Do you remember his name, or do you know his name?
Moses Rastus White.
Oh, that's great. Moses, say the middle name again.
Rastus.
Rastus.
I guess it's R-A-S-T-I-S, yeah. But, and then on my mother's side.
Her parents' names.
Her parents' name, her father's name was Jacob. Her mother's name was Sally.
Sally.
Yeah. And Sally died, I forget how old my mother told me she was, but then her father remarried. and that lady's name was Eva.
Mhm.
So,
So did those, your grandparents there, did you meet them? Did you know them? Did you
Uh,
interact with them?
I really liked my maternal grandparents. They were very nice. You know, Jacob Edelman was a wonderful man, and his wife. Did not like my father's father. He was a very gruff, arrogant man, and he didn't like me, and I didn't like him. But when we'd go visit, it'd take about 2 or 3 hours to get to him.
My.
I was quite young, and I'd go in and poker the fire that he was in front of and make it hot, and then
He'd have to move.
and then pick all the gooseberries off their bushes and climb the cherry tree and broke a limb. so I wasn't too welcome down there, but
What did they do? Did they work in the mines? Did they work in the railroad?
on my father's side, well, mother's too, mostly railroaders.
Mhm.
I don't think any of them worked in the mines. We had a lot of cousins now that worked in the mines, but my parents, fathers, brothers, and so on were all railroaders.
Mhm. Now, do you have any siblings? Did you have any siblings?
Yes, I have one brother, Dennis White, who lives in Huntington, West Virginia, and he is 4 years my senior,
Mhm.
and he's a retired attorney.
Were there other siblings that have passed or anything like that?
Half brother
A half-brother.
on my mother's side, Harold.
Mhm.
He met an untimely death from a drunk driver.
Oh.
So he was only 30, and he had been in the Second World War.
Oh, had he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Got in right at the end. He and my mother lied about his age because he wanted to go, and
Oh.
so.
Now, you have a brother that's still living, and he's
Yes.
in Huntington.
Yes.
A retired attorney.
Yes.
Okay. Now, are you married, single, divorced, widowed, separated, or all the above?
One of the above. I'm married to Sandra J. Goldman.
What's the name again?
Sandra Joe Goldman, Gohman.
Goldman.
And
Okay.
her father was Dr. Joseph Goldman here, a pathologist.
So she's local.
Oh,
was
yeah,
a local
she's
person.
local, yeah. We met at Ohio State.
Now, how long have you been married?
45 years.
Do you remember the day you were married?
Yes,
the
I
date?
do. Yes, I do. It's September 9th.
September 9th.
September the 9th, yeah.
Okay.
In 1972.
72. Now, do you know anything about her parents? You told me about her father already. He was, he was a physician.
He was
here?
a physician and a pathologist, and he set up all the labs at the laboratories at the 3 hospitals at that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How about her mother? What was her mother's name?
Her mother's name is Doris, and she's still living. She's 92 and at Hillview Assisted Living.
Okay. Now, do you have any children?
Yes, we have 2 children. One son, Adam, who's in Lewis Center, next to Columbus, Ohio, and one daughter, Margaret, that's also in Lewis Center region.
What's your son's name again?
Adam.
Adam.
Yeah.
What does he do?
He works for a large healthcare firm where he does a lot of the accounting.
Okay. And then your daughter, what does she
The
do?
daughter is an attorney, a non-practicing attorney that stays at home with her children. And
So you have grandchildren then? too.
yes.
Now, does Adam, your son, have children?
Yes, Adam has 2 daughters.
Okay. What are their names?
Annie and Emmy.
Annie and Emmy.
Yeah.
Okay. And how old are they?
Annie is in the 7th grade, and Emmy's in the 2nd grade.
Okay. You didn't know there was going to be a quiz, did you?
Well, it sounds more like an aging quiz.
Well, it does, doesn't it? The library likes to get a timeline.
Oh,
of
I understand.
people,
No, that's good.
little
yeah.
tree, family tree.
Oh,
you
yeah,
know, somebody
yeah.
looks the next day. Oh, grandma,
Yeah.
grandpa.
Yeah, That's very nice. Yeah.
Now, Adam is married. Is he married?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's his wife's name?
Carrie.
Carrie. And what's your daughter's name again?
Margaret.
Margaret. She's married?
Yes.
And stays at home with the
Yes.
kids?
Yeah.
What are her children's names?
Peter. Wait a minute. Oh.
I have that trouble. My daughter has 2 children,
Yeah.
and they're German.
Yeah. Oh God.
You'll think about it later.
Yeah. Her husband's name is John.
What does he do?
He is in investments and works for a large firm in Columbus area.
In the investments area?
Yeah.
Today was not a good day.
No, it hasn't been a good day for a while.
For
Yeah.
about a week now.
Yeah.
It's been a good day.
Oh, James is Margaret's youngest son.
Okay. Where did you go to high school?
I went to high school in West Virginia. It was Boone County at Sherman High School. It was in a small town called Seth.
Okay.
And,
And did you graduate from there?
I graduated from there, yeah. And
When was that? What year did you graduate? Probably around 59. I think.
yeah, I was 59. Yes, because I was at Marshall 59 to 60. Yeah, graduated in the 59.
Okay, well, after you graduated, what did you do?
I went to Marshall College. It was called a college at the time, but 2 years later we became a university. And I had a major, I wanted to be a physician, so you don't major in pre-medicine. You say you're a pre-med student, but you have to have a major. And my major was zoology and minor in chemistry.
That was my route tue, zoology and chemistry.
Yeah.
Majoring in pre-med, so to speak, but I
Yeah.
didn't go. I didn't make it.
Yeah. Well, that's because you didn't want to, not because of the brain power.
Yeah, I had other issues, you know.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Okay.
So you got a degree from Marshall, a bachelor's degree
Yeah.
in zoology and chemistry, and then what happened to you?
Then I went to Medical College of Virginia in Richmond, Virginia, and now those names that name has all changed. It's now Virginia Commonwealth University.
Oh, where is it located?
It's in Richmond.
Richmond. Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So they had a medical school there.
Yes. Yes. Very, very excellent medical school.
What?
Very old. It didn't even close during the Civil War. I think it was
Really?
only 1 or 2 that didn't close.
I bet there's a lot of history there.
Oh, enormous history. They have the White House of the Confederacy very close to the school, and the
Yeah.
Virginia Museum right in Richmond, and it's you have the statues of the previous generals and so on.
They haven't taken them down today, have they?
I don't think they've taken all of them. It would be pretty hard for Richmond.
Okay, that'd be rough. wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed the Richmond area. Some people ask me, why didn't you go to West Virginia University med school? Well, it was a fine med school, but I interviewed up there in the late fall, early winter. It was so damn cold and walking up and down the hills. I said, I can't take this.
That was a no.
It was a no.
Thanks, but no.
Yeah.
So did you like medical school? Did you like it?
Well, it's mixed feelings, you know. At the time, there are moments you hate it because of the stress and that's on you to do well. But no, I think I did enjoy it. You know, there were sad moments and great moments, but overall, I look back and I think that I had a good experience. You know, the biggest problem with medical school is having a real friend, because it's all so competitive, and
Oh, is it? Oh,
your classmates are not always honest with you. You know, if you
I'm shocked.
Yeah, if you want to solve a problem, they may know a little bit more about it than you do. They may tell you the right answer; it may not be right. Our class was not that close. The class behind us, they were all very close with each other, and I knew a lot of them also.
How many in your class? How many?
I think there were 80.
80.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And I was fortunate in medical school because there was a scholarship from the Claude Benedum Fund specifically for a West Virginia student that was going to Medical College of Virginia. And so I was able to obtain that. But I also worked part-time for the 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And my 4th year medical school was too important to work. I borrowed some more money because we were on the wards the whole time.
What did you work at those first 3 years? What did you do?
First 3 years, you were really, well, the first 2 years, I was quoting, I know my size doesn't indicate this, but a security guard.
Mm-hmm.
It was a new medical building, and
Okay.
I checked in whoever walked in, whatever student or whatever, or professor. You had to have their name when they clocked in and when they went out.
And you were the guard for
I
that.
was the guard for it, yeah. But you know, it was on the weekend, and you know, I worked and didn't have a lot of money. You know, my background, I didn't have excess funds. I didn't have a car. I was a 3rd year student at medical school.
Did you work in high school or any?
I started working in high school as soon, let's see, yeah, it was after graduation. Graduated my senior year, and I found a job with Libby Owens Gas Company, who in the summer they would hire help, additional or temporary help, in order to help mow the right-of-way through the mountains of their line, for their gas lines were. Because the line walkers, you know, would go and make sure that everything was okay, no leaks, no problems. There's so many rattlesnakes and copperheads in those regions that we would cut right away both sides of the pipeline so the line walker could see, and plus so you could get in for any repairs.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that 3 summers.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then in college I worked 4 years there. Well, no, 3.5. I didn't work my first semester, but I was able to be hired by the professors as a laboratory assistant in their courses. After I'd taken the course, then I was hired as a lab assistant for the next semester students.
When did you graduate from medical school?
In 1967.
67?
Yes.
What did you do then?
I went for my internship at Emory University in Atlanta with most of my time spent at the Grady Memorial Hospital. You know, it's one of Emory's major teaching hospital at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's all changed now, but
What did you do then? I mean, after your resident,
yeah.
Then what?
Well, after the
internship.
Yeah, the internship. I was there with. I studied 6 months of internal medicine, 6 months pediatrics. Because I thought originally about going into cardiology or heart diseases, but I didn't know peds or internal medicine. So, but during that time, I kind of changed my mind, and that's because my last rotation in medical school, I had an ear, nose, and throat rotation, and really liked it.
Mm-hmm.
And then during internship, I didn't think I wanted to be a pediatrician or an internist. I really was favoring the specialty, and well, I guess I don't know how you look at this, whether it's a blessing or not a blessing, but all with a few months to go during my internship, I really hadn't had a chance to go out and secure a residency position. But President Johnson found me one. And I got
Let's see.
yeah.
Did he send you a telegram?
Yeah, you can say that. Yeah, yeah.
You were drafted then?
Yeah, I was drafted as a physician.
Well, let me ask you this: were you drafted into the Army and decided to go into the Navy before did the Navy draft you?
Yes.
How'd that work?
Yeah. Well, see, the Navy gets their physicians and chaplains from the Navy. So, what did I say? The Marines. The Marines get their chaplains from the Navy and their physicians. But I was drafted into the Navy, and I was sent to San Diego Naval Hospital. And the admiral, all of us had gathered there. The admiral said, "Boys, just relax. You're going to sit out the war right here." Well, about 2 or 3 months, true to military form, I got my notice to, I was joining the Marine Corps at Camp Pendleton.
Oh, look at you.
And so I went up there, went through basic training. And
Did you have to go through basic? Was it officers basic or what?
Yeah, it was more an officer, and they were easy on us, but there were a few of us that, even, my size belies this comment, but I was in damn good shape. I boxed a lot in high school.
Did you?
Oh yeah, Golden Gloves, etc. And I stayed in shape the whole time for my weight and size. So it wasn't that hard. Some of the physicians didn't like it very much, and then after that was over, had a few days off to go see your parents and so on, and then got on the big plane and slept quite a bit of the ways. We had a stopover in Alaska for a few minutes to refuel.
Right.
And then from there on into Vietnam at Da Nang.
Is that where you landed
Air
into
base,
Da Nang?
yeah. And it was dark when we landed. And we were under fire. Of course, this was a commercial airplane. We had no weapons, and they dumped us off, and hell, you had to run for some kind of
Get out of
cover.
here,
Get out, yeah. So,
So you landed in Da Nang, and when you landed there, it was dark, and it was shooting.
Yeah, I was shooting it, yeah. Yeah, the North Vietnamese and the Viet Cong and so on, yeah, they were.
What year was that?
Hold on, let me think. Let's see, that was 1968.
68.
Yeah, when I landed, yeah.
Okay. How long were you in the Navy?
2 years.
2 years.
That was the commitment because of our age and everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here you are in Vietnam,
Yeah.
and as soon as you land, you're getting shot at. Then what did you do?
Well, we ran for cover, and there were a couple of areas there where we saw some, make-do bunk beds, and I laid down in one, but the owner of that bed came in, and I had to get up and sleep on the floor. We didn't know what the rules were and so on. But then the corpsman from the Force Logistic Command picked me up that morning, later in the morning, and then I went to my first base. It's called Forces Logistic Command. It was, probably hour's drive from Da Nang. And
Did it have a name, that base?
Well, it was such a temporary thing.
What did you do there?
Well, it was a large base. We had corpsmen there, and you had the Marines and coming through that were in the rear area to get treatment. Some of them were ill. All types of illnesses came through, whether it was athlete's foot or pneumonia or plague, or malaria.
Plague over there?
Yeah.
That plague.
And in fact, and when it was there was a American-built children's hospital on the base, and it was staffed with Vietnamese women, aides, etc., and some nurses and so on. And then, so I worked there for, temporarily, and I was the first one around that region to diagnose plague, because a young kid came in with a lymph node and swelling going up his arm, and just didn't look right to me. So in order to culture it, I went to the leading edge of the redness, right above where it was badly infected. That's where the germs are busy spreading, but they haven't come to the surface yet. So I injected that with saltwater saline, then went in with a needle and drew back some of the saline and stuff, which had the organism in it that was tested, found to be plague. Of course, you cure the plague if you get it early, you get antibiotics going. Mm-hmm. And of course, that's spread by the rat flea. Mm-hmm. And the French had taught the Vietnamese very well. See, the French were there before us. Those Ho Chi Minh ran them out. But the rats, they knew to try to control all the rats because the fleas would make them sick if they'd bite them. So you didn't see as much plague as you think you would. But anyway, we diagnosed that, got the kid treated. It's very curable once you get it early with antibiotics. Oh, yeah.
Oh, good.
But that was, and then you go to, every now and then there, one part of the country there'd be a little medical meeting and your commanding officer would give you permission to have somebody drive you down there or fly down, and they kept mentioning the plague. They bring up that one culture.
Really?
But not, my name wasn't attached to it, you see. That was
Did you raise your hand and say, hey, hey?
They all outranked me. No, I didn't bother.
Well, then after that base, you weren't there that long?
No, not very long.
Where'd you go then?
Well, I was the Marine Corps, 7th Motor Transport Battalion, wanted a physician. And I was selected. And quite frankly, I welcomed it because I thought two or three, a couple of the physicians and the commanding officer physician there were just a bunch of pussies. And so, wimps, I just didn't enjoy being around them. I loved those Marines come through, you take care of them, they say, yes, sir, they go on their way. But then there on the base, you had to fool with all the politics.
How to what?
Politics.
Politics on base.
Yeah, I didn't like that. So my commanding officer and I willingly agreed for me to go north.
Okay.
And so that was in the Quang Tri, Dong Ha area north. That's fairly close to the demilitarized zone. So I was the physician for our troops, went on convoys with them. Commanding officer really didn't want me to go on convoys because he would have been held accountable if I'd have been injured. But I knew and liked some of the officers who were in charge of the convoys, and so I went with them. And we were attacked, but they had to be crazy to attack us. We were so well armed. All of our trucks had a .50 caliber machine gun on it. There were a couple of the trucks had what we call quad 50. There were 4 machine guns on a turret, and it's controlled by the driver. And then usually had a tank in the lead. And then there were planes were available to be called in to drop that beautiful napalm. That's beautiful stuff, man. When you drop that, you see them running.
Do you?
Yes.
I bet they do.
there's no question about it. They'll duck down for a bullet, but they run when there's napalm.
So you went on convoys, and a couple of times that you got attacked and everything, and then what?
Well, but then the thing that, of course, I loved the military, but the thing that really was good for my future, medically speaking, is that just a very few miles away from 7th Motor Transport Battalion, where I was, the 3rd Medical Battalion Hospital, run by the Army, had board-certified surgeons, anesthesiologists, internal medicine specialists, and it was a kind of a gathering area for the soldiers in that region that were ill. And they also got the acutely injured ones that were in battle and had been medevac to their hospital. Mm-hmm. So I would go down late afternoon, and I was permitted to be a first assistant to the surgeon. So I was able to learn an enormous amount about surgery itself, how to take care of the injured, and
But battle wounds? And
yeah,
that
oh
sort
yeah,
of thing?
oh yeah, battle wounds were terrible. You know, the M16 bullet is such a high velocity that it'll have a small entrance wound, but then the waves, percussion waves, destroy all the tissue for quite a distance around it. And so you knew that small wound, there was going to be dead muscle and tissue underneath it. So you'd have to make very large incisions in order to cut all that dead material out. And then did some amputations, you know, and we also had some of the POWs, North Vietnamese.
I was going to ask you
Yeah.
if you ever treated some of the
Yeah,
enemy.
we did, and the POWs were treated the same as our own forces. The physicians made no difference, and you know it was a.
Could you
and,
tell how they reacted to being treated by?
Well, I think they were. Of course, the language varied, but I'm sure they were very happy with it. Just when you first see them coming in the operating room, they were really scared. They didn't know whether they're going to be tortured or what was going on. But and we had anesthesiologists there, put them to sleep, and we treated them like like everybody else. There wasn't any difference in the care.
How long are you there?
11 and a half months.
11 and a half months?
Yeah.
At that facility? Or in country?
Oh, in country.
Okay, okay.
At that facility, probably between 9 and 10 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, after that, where did you go then? Was your time up?
My time, well, my time was up. I had about 2 or 3 weeks left. I've been saving my money to go to Hong Kong to buy them out.
To do what?
To buy them out. No, I mean all the camera gear, everything. But then President Nixon's order came through for troop reduction. All troops that had less than 30 days left in country, you're being rounded up, brought to Da Nang or Saigon, put on ships, and come home.
Away you went.
Yeah, we said, I'll volunteer. I get so seasick, deathly ill. I volunteered to stay my time, take my chances, and fly home, but they wouldn't let me do that.
So did you get seasick?
Oh hell, I was seasick the whole time. My corpsman had to give me shots every day for nausea and stuff. I just, it was just awful.
How long did it? So you actually sailed from where? Da Nang?
From Da Nang to Los Angeles.
No stopover.
We had a stopover at, oh gosh, a small island.
It wasn't Pearl Harbor.
No. Let me think a second. Where was that stopover? It was close to Okinawa. Yeah. In fact, I think it was Okinawa.
Was it Okinawa?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think yeah.
Okay.
And then refuel or whatever we did. I was still sick. Then we came home.
What were some of your experiences in Vietnam that you would want to talk about? Or have you talked about them already?
I've talked about quite a few of them now. Some of the other stuff's too emotional.
Yeah. Now, after you got home, you got to Los Angeles.
Yes. Yeah, we landed in Los Angeles, and I'm still mad about that because we got in Los Angeles, put us on buses. We were hoping Jane Fonda and the crowd would be there so we could rush them.
You were hoping?
Jane Fonda would be there.
Yeah, what would you want to do to her?
Well, she was anti-military. Well, we were going to rush them. You know, my Marines I was with, there's not the Navy now. We were on their ship, but we were the ones getting off.
Yeah.
And the enlisted guys told me this because I was good buddies with them. Really, I took care of them. They were planning to rush her, storm her. Storm.
Jane Fonda?
Like storm the beach. That was never known to any officer except me, and I kept my mouth shut.
But Jane wasn't there.
Jane wasn't. In fact, there was nobody there. It was, well, nobody was there. It didn't bother me. I didn't have any attachments anywhere in the world. And we got on the bus and went back to Camp Pendleton, I think, and then were discharged from there. This I thought was bad. They turned us loose. We had to use the phones to call transport to get to an airport, which we all did, and then there we wandered around and got tickets to get home. So,
did you have your uniform on?
yes, we traveled in uniform.
Any problems?
No problems at all then. No, we all had uniforms, and I flew in eventually into Charleston, West Virginia, and then it was I don't know, inclement weather, and I hitchhiked home.
In your uniform?
Yeah.
You're a captain or something,
Yeah,
aren't you?
yeah, you're Officer 3. Yes. A Navy lieutenant is a captain in the other branches. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you hitchhiked, the officer, physician, hitchhiked home.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to get home?
Oh, well over an hour because it was bad weather, and standing out there, they think, God, who's that crazy guy in the uniform out there? But it so happened.
I'm not picking him up.
So the couple of the guys that picked me up really were lived pretty close to where I did, and we knew some of the same people once we started talking.
Did your folks know you went home to your folks?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Did they know you were coming home?
Yeah.
Did they?
Yeah. Yeah. But we, and John, we didn't have a phone. The person we rented from had a phone which was a couple hundred yards away from my parents' house. So I called him. He went up and told my dad that I was coming. But that's the only way I could talk to my parents in medical school.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I'd write a letter a week, and then when I'd call, I'd tell them in the letter what day I was going to call. And then, so...
Okay. You gave them a heads up about
I gave them a heads up,
time.
yeah.
They'd be waiting for the call.
Yeah. And the owner was Mr. Workman, who owned all the mines that my father was a bookkeeper for also. And so he walked up and got him. And
there you go. Now, so they knew you'd be home that day, or did you surprise them, or what was that
Well,
like?
yeah, I surprised them of the time I was there, the day and the time, but I wrote ahead of time, and it took so long to get back to the States. They knew it was coming.
How'd that feel getting home?
Well, it felt really good. Yeah, they really good. But how much?
We're okay.
Oh, okay.
We're good for 2 hours.
Okay. Well, it's kind of complicated, but of course, I was great to be home. I got home and had a good time with my parents, and then went back. But
Went back to where?
I was to report back. Fortunately, if you'd been in Vietnam and you were through, you got your first choice of where you wanted to go. So I picked San Diego Naval Hospital again. Got back there, beautiful weather, beaches.
That's a little further piece from West Virginia.
Yeah, but it was absolutely fabulous, and did a lot of scuba diving there and work. There were so many physicians that requested the Naval Hospital there that you worked very little. You reported for duty, but there's very little work. There's so many of us, and you only call one night a week. And then, as usual, I ran into trouble. Been in trouble all my life.
You got in trouble, you mean?
Yeah, I got into trouble. But the guy, the Navy captain, which is a full-bird colonel, just wasn't right. And this was the night I was working in the emergency room in the Naval Hospital. So the military dependents could come in and receive treatment, of course, naturally at no charge. But there was a kid came in with a fractured arm, and the bone was through the skin. Well, that's a bad compound fracture. You need to take that to the operating room and reduce it, otherwise you're going to get infected here. And this fellow that was taking that call was a senior Navy captain, which is a full-bird colonel in the other branches. He wouldn't come in. And so I couldn't operate on him. So we covered it up, you know, and bandaged it and put antibiotics and everything on it and gave him antibiotics. So I filed a complaint and about his mistreatment. It was his job, damn it, to come. And he then filed a court-martial suit against me for insubordination. Well, it just so happened that my commanding officer was a captain that had more seniority than he did. So he told him to shut up and forget about it.
Did that work?
Yeah, it worked. Well, if an admiral who was a physician would have heard that case, they would have canned the guy for not, he was derelict of duty.
What did happen to him? He was derelict of duty.
Yeah, I don't know. I
Okay.
had no way of finding out.
It's in his file somewhere.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But that in talking about staying in the military, I thought about it, but then I knew that I'd run into that guy again with his rank. He was all in the medical corps and stuff, so no use fighting that battle. And I had a residency at Ohio State anyway, lined up for my ear, nose, and throat training.
Where was that?
At Ohio State University. You know, I'd already been accepted for my ear, nose, and throat residency when I got out of the military.
Okay.
So,
So you thought about staying in, though?
yeah, I did.
You must have liked the service?
Well, I did. You know, I liked the lifestyle, the medical part. You know, they had excellent medicine, and I enjoyed it, and so I thought that would be a good option for me. But I thought it over and knew the circumstances were not favorable for me to ever advance in rank.
Have you kept in contact with any of the people you met during that time?
No, everybody's scattered, and I've tried to find 2 or 3, and you can't. You just, you know.
When were you discharged then? Your official discharge date?
1970.
1970.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, do you still have your uniform?
Oh yeah, yeah. Still have it.
Can you fit into it?
Yes.
You can?
Yeah. A little tight. Yeah, still have it. Yeah.
What awards and medals did you get? What
Oh, you know,
usual Vietnam?
Yeah,
but
just the usual the Vietnam medals, you know, for being in combat, being there, servicing.
Were you in combat? We had those convoys.
We had the convoys, and so I was attacked. Our compounds were attacked with rockets, so we were all in a combat zone.
Okay.
So you could call it combat. Now, I was not on the front line with the M16.
You didn't go in patrol or anything like that?
No, I did not have to do that.
Okay, all right.
But
So now you're at Ohio State.
Yeah.
And I think you said you met your wife there.
Yes, as I was a first-year resident, and because you got to remember, I'm older than most of the residents because I've been in the military, et cetera, et cetera. And then, but this was New Year's Eve, and in 1970. I was first-year resident. I was on second call. That means if the guy that's first call in for an emergency is swamped, he'd call me the second guy to help. So I was my apartment in Columbus reading, studying, about around, I get about ready to go to bed because I had to be first call the next day. And knock on the door, and it was one of my former corpsmen from Vietnam.
Really?
He was working at the pharmacy department in the hospital at Ohio State. So he and his girlfriend stopped in and said, George, there's a party up the street here, you know, you want to come up, have a drink or so? I said, well, I can walk up and have a beer maybe and come back. And at the same time, my wife-to-be was working in the chemistry laboratory at the hospital. Her boss, her roommate was the young man's boss that came to get me. And Sandy asked her, well, who all was going to be there tonight? And her friend said, well, I think there's going to be a Dr. White there. I didn't know it was going to be there. So it was her and my corpsman got together and figured the two of us should meet. And
this
so
was a conspiracy.
Yeah, and I walked in. That was she had a blonde fall on and a mini skirt, and I thought that's the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. So
I'm going to have more than one beer.
I'm going to drink it real slow.
That's great.
So we were married 2 years later.
2 years later.
Yeah.
What does she do? Did she work at what
Yeah,
time?
she worked at as a med tech,
At a
medical
med tech.
technology. Yeah, she
Okay.
had a bachelor's degree plus a med tech.
Well, you ended up in Portsmouth because she's from Portsmouth.
Yeah,
Right.
And her father's Dr. Joseph Goman, who
Mhm.
ran all the labs here
Mhm.
in the hospital. Yeah.
So when you came to Portsmouth, what did you do?
Well, as we were driving in, of course, I was setting up ear, nose, and throat practice, and Lowell Thompson, the administrator at that time, was very helpful in getting me here and getting all my supplies and facilities. As we came in, that's when a really severe windstorm came through and blew off the roof of my office to be. So I just set up one room office at the hospital in the speech and hearing department and started seeing some patients. And then when my office was ready again, then we transferred up there.
Where was your office?
It was on the campus side of Memorial.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever have another office somewhere? Was that?
No, what I did is that I had started working for the as a senior resident. There was a program then for a crippled children's program that they were no longer crippled children, but it was a healthcare organization run by the state to go out into communities and give care. And part of that care was ear, nose, and throat. So a couple of the guys kind of hired me to be the physician, and we went out into different communities in order to help.
Mm-hmm.
But so that gave me exposure to referring physicians from around the whole area. So once I started there on big time side of Memorial, I got a lot of referrals from them, treated a lot of the kids,
Mm-hmm.
and saw a lot of the, of course, the ones that couldn't afford care through the Crippled Children's Program, which was active here.
Mm-hmm.
So and then after we replaced the roof on my office, I went to work there and very happy. Yeah.
I was at Ohio State in 1970, by the way.
Oh, I'll be darned.
We lived on Neal Avenue.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Neal Avenue brings back, if I got any more time here.
Oh, yeah.
It brings back memories because when I graduated from Marshall, I knew I was going to medical school, but I was a little bit devious about getting a job. I needed money. And I applied to Chemical Abstracts Company in Columbus and flew up and interviewed, and they hired me. I didn't tell them I was going to medical school, but I worked there, and I rented a room from a dental fraternity on Neal Avenue.
A dental fraternity?
Yeah, it was the summertime when I got up there, and they needed to rent some rooms out.
Yeah.
And there were 3 or 4 of them there that stayed. Really, really good experience. And then I walked to work. Didn't have a car till my junior year in med school. And that's why Neal Hall, or Neal Avenue, brings back so many memories. And of course, during that summer, a couple of the guys would loan me their car so I could have a date and go out, and then go to different restaurant shows and stuff. And
Well, my wife was a nurse, and she worked. She walked
Yeah.
right over to the. Oh, where was that? Thinking of Upham Hall.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Thinking of Upham
Yes,
Hall.
Upham Hall.
Was that a neurology?
Well, it was also psychiatric.
She
Neurology and
wasn't in
psychiatric.
psychiatric. She was
Yeah,
neurology.
yeah. And what's her name? What was her?
What was her name?
Yeah.
Phyllis.
Phyllis. I knew. I didn't know Phyllis there, but at the hospital, she worked in the ICU, and
Yes, she
we
did.
started talking about
Yes.
Ohio State.
Yeah, that's wife number one.
Yeah. Okay.
I like being married. I do it as often as I can.
Well, multiple enjoyment. Yeah.
Did you bring back any souvenirs from Vietnam or anything? You have anything on the shelf or something?
No, I tell you what I do have.
Photographs?
A few pictures, but what I have that I really treasure is that, in spite of all the a-holes around me in the military there, some of my commanding officers and fellow officers at the hospital setting, I managed to make quite a few friends of the Vietnamese people, the young people and so on. And I exchanged letters with several of them. But then when the North reinvaded in '75, everything went silent. I hadn't received nothing since then. So I had some nice memories of those people, the hardworking. They worked, very loyal. They were very loyal to the United States. And so that's, I really
And you've
really
lost all
missed that.
contact
Oh,
with
yeah,
them? It's
just gone. And they would send me little handkerchiefs like embroidered, with names on it and so on. But that came to an end. So.
How'd you feel when the North Vietnamese won?
Well, first of all, we did not lose a war.
When it comes to war?
When it comes to war, we won every major battle. Our forces were never defeated that I'm aware of now in all my studies in a major battle. And they say, oh, what about Hue? Well, hell, we went through Hue a few months after the battles were over, and the military and the Marine Corps kicked their ass in Hue. And what some people forget about here in the United States is that they start talking about how evil our forces were, blah, 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 blah. The general of the North Vietnamese, I think it's Giap, G-I-A-P-P, I think, he executed POWs. He executed his own soldiers that were afraid to fight. That wasn't found out till a few years back now when they were exhumed all the people that they had murdered. And now that never played a big role here for News to Jane Fonda group,
True.
Yeah, you can tell I love that Jane Fonda group.
Too bad she wasn't on the beach.
That's right. Yeah. I have some sad memories.
You have some what?
So very sad memories.
Sad memories of Vietnam.
Yeah, because I knew those people, and
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, those that came over here, they're good citizens.
Oh, they are.
Work hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do work hard. Man,
Work ethic is up there.
And so many people here, unfortunately, don't appreciate what we have.
Right. Any other family members ever been in the military? I think you mentioned.
My oldest brother served right at the end of the Second World War. He, my father was his stepfather, and I was little. I don't think they got along very well. And my mother lied about his age. He wanted to go. He was at least 1 year too young.
Now he's in Huntington now, right? Is he
No, not that one. That's my full brother.
Okay.
This was my half brother.
Is he still living?
No, he was killed by a drunk driver.
Oh, he's still.
He was about oh, 29, 30,
Yeah,
somewhere
yeah,
there.
totally.
Yeah. But he served in the Second World War, but my relatives are long-term veterans back to the Civil War, I mentioned. Yeah. And I had a cousin killed in Vietnam. I had a first cousin killed in the Second World War. And what upset the family is that, well, in the Vietnam War, his name was Jackie. I was sent to about the same area where he was killed.
Oh.
So, you know, everybody started worrying about that. But
So he was killed before you went over
yes,
there?
yeah.
So
yeah.
they're concerned about you're going over to the same place that Jackie was killed.
Yeah.
Was he in the Marines?
He was Army.
Army?
Yeah.
Yeah. George, is there anything else you'd like to say, you'd like to add? I think we've covered the waterfront on my list, though, but this is open mic area.
Yeah, just open mic time. I certainly have enjoyed our interview tonight, but also I arrived here and set up a practice in '74 and was in active practice until '08. I'd had extensive back, lumbar, spinal surgery, and it's getting just harder to stand and do all the work I had to do.
How'd that happen? Did you fall?
It was just congenital.
Just, okay.
Yeah, and then trouble with nerve in my leg, and I just so uncomfortable that I just had to quit.
Okay.
And but I am very thankful to the people of Portsmouth. They were wonderful to me. I had a great practice. And,
you're in a number of, are you in a number of civic organizations? I know you're at this Portsmouth.
Yeah, well, long time ago, CV, I was active in the Red Cross. I've always been kind of active in the schools. I used to talk at the schools about tobacco and alcohol addiction, and because it's so related to the ear, nose, and throat. Then I'm considered a clinical professor of otolaryngology, head and neck surgery from Ohio University, where I teach medical students, lecture them. And then when I was appointed to by Governor Rhodes, with Shawnee State Community College. Just college, yeah. I made the motion to become a four-year university. And then...
Are you still on the Board of Trustees? Or?
Yeah, I've been reappointed.
Okay.
But when we became a university, all the board members were automatically resigned because people had to be appointed. It's considered a new institution. And I said, well, that's fine. I went on back to my practice. And I said, well, that's it. I made the motion. That's what I wanted to do when I came here. So we're going to be a university. And I don't know if this is public information or should be printed, but may offend some people. But I was at my office working. I got a call from Frank Taylor, who was then the president. And he said, George, why don't you come down and talk to me about the board? I said, well, Frank, I'll come down and talk. And he said, well, Speaker Rife wants you reappointed. And so do I, which I don't think Frank did. But anyway,
you don't think he really did?
I don't think so. But anyway, that's how I got my second term on the board. And this term,
so you're there for the third time
This
now,
is the third time.
so to speak. Okay.
Yeah.
How long have you been here this time?
1 year. No, not a year yet. Just appointed.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been to 2 or 3 meetings. And then I audit. There's some courses there at Shawnee. I didn't this semester, but I've audited several courses and sat in with the students and the professors, and I've always enjoyed that. I don't have to get a grade, with an audit. You just study.
Right.
And then my wife and I have set up a scholarship with the children, either a veteran or a veteran's children, grandchildren, whatever. And so we've I don't know if anybody's claimed it yet or not, but the funds are certainly there. And
Great.
so we've been pretty loyal. And of course, this term I'm a little older and wiser. I don't talk as much. I listen more.
Do you travel? You hear your wife travel?
You know, we traveled more when we were in active practice than we do
Really?
now.
What
Yeah.
did your wife help you in the practice any, or did she? What did
She did initially. See, she was a lab tech, and when I set up my allergy practice, she calculated all the measurements for the vaccines and mixed them and so on, and also helped with the skin testing. And then after, practice grew and so on, then she trained new hires in order to how to do the work. And then she kept my books for several years, ordered all the supplies and so on. So she did a lot initially.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm done. What do you want to say?
No,
You done?
I think I'm done. I'm getting hoarse. So,
Okay.
but
I really appreciate you coming in.
well, glad you asked. I mean, it's
I
really.
always shake hands
Yeah.
with the veterans. Thank you.
Well, we're glad you're doing this, man.
I fought the Vietnam War from behind the desk at Fort Knox, Kentucky.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
as far as I got from
you
home.
at least served.
Huh?
You served.
Well, I had a guy that, my opinion is, did you wear the uniform? Come on down.
Yeah.
I had a guy in the Air Force, the only thing he did was laundry.
Yeah.
Come on, I had to talk him into coming in.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean,